Thursday and Friday. Thursday and Friday, we did long division. So literally, this is all I did. I took synthetic, took long, and put synthetic in its place. Everything we do today, I could have done on Thursday and Friday of last week. It's the same process. The reason I'm showing it to you is because some people like this way of dividing versus long division, right? Long division is great, but there's a reason why they call it long division. It's a little long, okay? Today's isn't going to be as long. We're going to do 2 problems in the same space that we did 1 problem last week, okay? Last week, we could only fit 1 problem down there. Today, we're going to be able to fit 2 problems. It's a lot less problem, a lot less space, a lot less work. But it is synthetic. So when I say synthetic, what does synthetic mean? Fake. Fake, but it works like the real thing, right? Like synthetic grass. I have synthetic grass in my backyard. It looks like real grass. Unless you go up there and actually look at it and touch it, it doesn't feel like real grass, but it looks like real grass, right? It functions the same. I like it because I don't have to water it. I like it because I don't have to cut it. I like it because it's always green. It's not like our grass here, right? So is it the same? Yes, but it's not the same. It's kind of a substitute, right? That's what synthetic division is. It's a substitute. It works exactly the same, but it looks a little different. Looks a little different, right? Okay. So on the test, when we do take a test, do you have to use synthetic division? No, you can use long division. If you like long division better, use long division. If you like synthetic division better, use that. I'm not going to make you use one over the other. The reason I'm showing you both is to give you options. Some people like, I'll be honest, most people like synthetic division. That's from the 14 years, 15 years I've been teaching this, most students like synthetic division better. But I do have some students who like long division. It just makes sense to me. Use whatever method you like to use, okay? Okay, so let me show you synthetic. Synthetic looks different, but it works, it functions exactly the same. Okay, so a couple vocab words. They're not new vocab words. You've heard them before, you've seen them before, but I just kind of want to remind you. Dividend, dividend. So if I did 32 divided by 8, 32 is the dividend, okay? 32 is the dividend. 8 is the divisor, okay? 8 is the divisor. All right, those are the names for them. Okay, so the number that goes on the inside of the house, it's called the dividend. The number that goes on the front of the house is the divisor. The answer is called the quotient. Okay, so this is how it's going to look. Instead of a big house, we have a little tiny house. Over here is the 0 of the divisor. The 0 of the divisor. And then up here are just the coefficients. What's a coefficient? What is a coefficient? A number without the variable. Yep. So a number in front of a variable. A number in front of a variable. That's it. No variable. Okay? Okay. So let's set it up. So let's do number 1. The best way to show you is to watch it. Okay? So this is a problem that you saw last week. Instead of long division, I put synthetic division, and that's the only difference. Okay. So we have a dividend, that's the long guy, and then we have a divisor. Okay. So last time we did a big house, right? And we put the big guy inside the house. We're not going to do that today. This is what we're going to do. It's going to look a little different. Okay, so instead of a big house, we're going to have a little house. Little house like that. Okay? That's the first change. The second change, over here, I'm going to put the coefficients. Over here, I'm going to put all the coefficients. So let's look at this guy here. What's the coefficient of x to the third? 1. What's the coefficient of x squared? What's the coefficient of negative 10x? What's the coefficient for negative 16? Those numbers you just said, we're going to put in a row. So the first one is 1, then 1, then negative 10, then negative 16. I didn't make up those numbers. Those are the numbers you told me because they're coefficients, right? I don't need their x's and x squareds and x cubes. I don't need those. I'll put them back later, but I don't need them right now. That's the first thing. The second thing is I need the 0 of the divisor. Well, here's the divisor right here, x plus 2. What's the 0 for x plus 2? So I'll give you a hint. You've done it before, but I'll give you a hint. When you find a 0, when you need to find a 0, set it equal to 0 and solve for x. So you'll get negative 2, right? A lot of you can do that in your head. If you can't, this is how you do it. Set it equal to 0 and solve for x. That's the 0. That number is going to go in the house. So if you don't know what it is, set it equal to 0 and solve for x. Some of you can do it in your head. A lot of you can be like, oh, it's negative 2. Great. If you can't, set it equal to 0 and solve. Okay? That's all we need to start the process. So the process, we're going to look like this. So we're going to put a little line underneath here. Okay? Okay, so when I actually do the division, watch. Okay? Don't worry about writing down yet. I'll give you some time to write down, but just watch what I do. Okay? Because it's going to look weird because you've never seen it before. Okay. So the first number comes straight down. 1 comes directly down. Whatever number is there always comes straight down. Now I'm going to do multiplication. Just like I did for division, right? Multiply the top number by the side number. You're going to do multiplication. So we're going to multiply this number times that number. What do you get? Negative 2. We're going to put that number there. Always add down. Always add straight down. So what is positive 1 plus a negative 2? Negative 1. Good. Do the process again. What is negative 1 times negative 2? Positive 2 this time, right? So it's going to go here. Add straight down. What do I get when I add negative 10 and positive 2? Negative 8 goes here. Hey, what's up? Do you want everyone to scan this to vote on? Does anyone want to? Okay, so multiply again. We get negative 8 times negative 2, positive 16. That goes here. Add straight down. Negative 16 plus positive 16 makes 0. We're done. Whatever's in the last spot is going to be the remainder. So in this case, 0 is our remainder. That's always true for synthetic division. Whatever comes last, that's going to be your remainder. If there's a number there, that's your remainder. If there's no number there, you don't got a remainder. In this case, we don't have a remainder. Okay. Now we took away all the x's and the x squareds and the x cubes, right? Now we got to give them back. So we're going to start with negative 8. Negative 8 took the first guy's spot, negative 16. Did negative 16 have an x or an x squared? No. So negative 8 is just going to stay negative 8. The next is negative 1. Negative 1 is going to take the next guy's spot, negative 10x. That guy had an x. So it's going to be negative 1x. The last guy, positive 1, is going to take the next one's spot, x squared. So that means 1x squared. And you are done. That's the answer. Mm-hmm. That's the quotient. We call that the quotient, right? We don't need it anymore. It didn't. We don't have any guys, so it went down a power, right? Watch. Let's see. I'm going to give you one from last week. Let's look last week. So last week we did this, except we did long division, right? So look, it always goes down a power, right? Look at this guy here, and then look at our answer. Went down a power, right? And then same thing here, right? This one went down 2 powers, actually. Okay, yeah. So yeah, so it'll usually, the top power will go down by at least 1. Or another way to write this, you can write it as x squared minus x minus 8, right? It's the same thing. That's your answer. That's your quotient. That's the guy that would go on top of the house last week. Okay. All right, let's try another one. Okay. Synthetic division. So I'm going to set up my box. What number is going to go in there? Positive 1. Yeah, positive 1, not negative 1. So how did you know that? I'll show you. So this guy here, we need to find the 0. Means set it equal to 0 and solve. Add 1 to both sides. That's where we get 1. Okay, that's how we get positive 1. Now the coefficients. Well, first of all, before I do that, let's look at this guy over here. X to the 4th, x to the 3rd, x squared, x. Is there something missing? The by itself guy, right? Constant, the guy by itself, the constant. Is that important? Do I need to add it to the end? Yeah, remember last week it was important. That's like saying 32 is not 32, it's actually 320. Big difference, right? You're going to get a much different answer. So the first thing I got to do is put in a placeholder. Plus 0. In between, at the end, big important. In the front, if I were to put a 0 in front, doesn't matter. So in the front, doesn't matter. In the middle or at the end, very important. Okay, all right, so let's set it up. So I need the coefficients. So 3, negative 11, positive 4, negative 2, 0. Okay. Setup is done. Do the process. Okay. First guy always comes straight down. First guy always comes straight down. Multiply. 3 times 1, positive 3. Always plus. Negative 11 plus 3, negative 8. Multiply again. Negative 8 times 1, negative 8. Add straight down. Negative 4. Multiply. Negative 4, positive 1, negative 4. Add straight down. Negative 6. Multiply one more time. Negative 6 again. Add straight down. I get negative 6 one more time, and I'm done. Do I have a remainder in this question? Yes, the last guy is the remainder. This one I actually do have a remainder. Okay, so now last step, give everything back. Give them back their x's, x cubes, all that good stuff. Start with the remainder. We always start, so when we're doing this process, we always start here and work our way that way. So negative 6 is a remainder. How did we write remainders last week? As, there you go, right? As a fraction. So negative 6 goes on top. What goes on the bottom? X minus 1. Good. Plus. Done with that guy. Now the other negative 6. That guy is going to take the 0 spot. No x. Next guy. Negative 4 takes negative 2x's spot. Negative 4x. Next guy. Negative 8 takes 4x squared spot. Negative 8x squared. Last guy. See, so how you go up in power, every guy goes up in power by 1 until you're done with numbers. Done. If I were to do this problem using long division, you'd got the same answer. You would have got the same exact answer. It's just, it's less stuff. Long division is great because you've been doing it since 4th grade, but it's a lot of stuff. Synthetic division is not as much.
How does it still get the same answer if you did that way?
It's a synthetic way. Yeah, someone came up with this. I don't know who created this method, but it just happens to work. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it compared to long division, but it works every time. Yeah. Yeah, that's why to some people this method, I like this. Great, use it. The only time I make you use long division or I make you use synthetic division is on the practices. So tomorrow, when you're doing practice 18, I'm going to make you use synthetic division to practice it. But when we get down to quizzes and tests, you don't have to use one or the other. It's up to you. Whatever method you're best at. Whatever you're best at, use it. Okay, pick a method and get better at it. Okay, all right, so let's go back. Number 3. Okay. So the first thing, this one has f of x. Remember I told you guys, don't worry about f of x. Just change it to y. It's the same thing. Okay. Okay, so we have x to the third minus 7x squared plus 4x plus 12. And then x minus 2 is a factor of it. We talked about this on Thursday. What does it mean if it's a factor? If something's a factor, I'll give you an example. 8 is a factor of 32. How do we know that? By multiplication, right? These two things multiply to make 32. Think of it in terms of remainders. If something is a factor, what is going to be my remainder every time? 0, because it goes in evenly, right? No remainder. That means if I divide x minus 2 by this guy, I should get a remainder of 0. That's what it's saying. Okay? So I got to use it to find all of the zeros. Okay, so let's think about what we did a few weeks ago. How many zeros is this guy going to have? It's going to have 3 zeros, 3 answers, right? How do I know it's going to have 3 answers? The biggest variable, the biggest power, right? They need me to find all 3 answers. That's what they want me to do. Okay? So I'm going to use synthetic division. So let me use synthetic division to find them. So let me set it up. So I have 1x to the third, negative 7x squared, positive 4, positive 4x, positive 12. What number should go in the house? Positive 2, positive 2, positive 2, because if you solve it for x, you're going to get 2 as an answer. Okay, do your process. We should get 0 as a remainder. So the last number here should be 0. Better be 0, because that's what they said. It's a factor. So let's go. First guy always comes straight down. Multiply. 2 times 1 makes positive 2. Add straight down, I get negative 5. Negative 5 times 2, negative 10. Add straight down, I get negative 6. Negative 6 times 2, negative 12. Add straight down, I got 0. Good. No remainder. Give it back its x's and x squareds and all that good stuff. No remainder, so I don't have to worry about that. Negative 6 is going to stay negative 6. Negative 5 is going to be negative 5x. Remember, we go in order. 1x squared just becomes x squared. Well, that's where I stopped on number 1 and number 2. They just wanted me to divide there. But now they actually want me to find answers. I should get 3 answers. So what am I going to do? You guys have done this last chapter, this chapter. You guys have done this many, many times. How do I get answers from this guy? There you go. You guys know how to do this. Set it equal to 0. It's a trinomial. Got the trinomial steps right over here. Set it equal to 0. Is it in standard form? Yes. Does it have a GCF? No. ABC. Looking for the two numbers that multiply to be negative 6. When I add them together, it's negative 5. Close. That's going to make positive 6. Negative 6 and 1. There you go. Yeah. X squared minus 6x plus 1x minus 6. X times x, right? So I need a negative 6 and a positive 1. Are any of those difference of squares? No. They don't even have squares. X minus 6, and x plus 1 don't even have squares. So no. How do I solve to get answers? Set them equal to 0, right? Set them each equal to 0. So I get positive 6, negative 1. So I go to Delta Math and I put 2 boxes, 6 in one box, negative 1 in the other box, and it says wrong. Why? We said there'd be 3, right? There has to be 3. Where's the other guy? You actually found it, yeah. You actually found it already. That guy right there, the 0, 2. You found it at the beginning, right? Isn't that a 0? Yeah. Didn't it say it was a factor? Yeah. And you found the 0? So you already found it. You just got to include it. So your answers, so you just got to make sure you bring that guy down. And there's your 3 answers. You actually found one at the very beginning. Didn't realize it, but you actually did. There's my 3 answers. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to try the next one. It's going to be very similar. There's a key difference, but it's essentially that same question. So let's look at number 4. Again, f of x, don't let that mess with you. So we get 2x to the third minus 13x squared plus 26 minus 15. Then it has this weird guy right here. F of 3 equals 0. We'll compare it with f of x. This guy kind of looks like this guy right here, right? And this guy right here. What's the difference, though? What's the difference between the 3 guys I circled? The 3. They took out an x and they put in a 3, right? So they said x is 3, and that equals 0. So they're saying what they're trying to say mathematically without putting it in words. They're saying 3 is a 0. 3 is a 0. So it's an answer, yeah. We don't even have to set it equal to 0. They already did that for us. They're telling us this is just mathematical notation. 3 doesn't equal mean is a 0. There's an answer right there already. Okay? 3 is a 0. Find all the others. Well, how many should I have total? So I already got 1. Let's go find the other 2. Divide. Let's set up synthetic division. 2, negative 13, positive 26, negative 15. They already told me a 0, right? They told me an answer. It's 3. So that's going to go here. So already, let me make a list of my answers. I know 3 of them is going to be an answer. I just got to go find the other 2. That's what I'm using synthetic division for. Okay. So first guy moves straight down. First guy is going to move straight down, like always. Multiply. 2 times 3 makes positive 6. Negative 13 plus 6, negative 7. Multiply. Negative 7 times 3, negative 21. 26 plus negative 21, positive 5. 5 times 3, 15. Negative 15 plus 15, 0. Should I have gotten 0 as a remainder? Does that make sense? Yeah, because they gave me an answer. So if I give you an answer, I should get 0 as a remainder. Like if I say, hey, 8 is one of the factors of 32, find the other one. Well, when I divide it by 8, I should get no remainder. Makes sense. Okay. All right. Let's give it back its x's and x squareds. So we start with the end. Positive 5 doesn't get an x. It's the constant. Negative 7 is going to get an x. And then 2 is going to get an x squared. Now I got to use that guy to get my other 2 answers. So what do I need to do? How do I get my other 2? Right there. Trinomial steps right there. Set it equal to 0. Already in standard form. Does it have a GCF? No. So skip that step. Go right to ABC. So 5 times 2 is 10. B is negative 7. What are the 2 numbers that multiply to be 10, add up to be negative 5 or negative 7? Negative 5, negative 2. Perfect. Let me make my factoring box. So I get 2x squared, positive 5, negative 5x, negative 2x. So I need an x, and then I need a 2 to make 2x squared. I'm going to put the 2 on top because that goes in negative 1 and that goes in negative 5. Solve for x. Last step. Set them equal to 0. Solve for x. And I'll get my other 2 answers. So I get 5 over 2 as one of them. It's a fraction. It's okay. Leave it like that. And I get x equals 1 as another one. Let me put those answers next to the answer that I already have. And you're done. There's my 3 zeros. 3 boxes, 3 zeros. Okay. Okay, so number 5 and 6, we're not going to do because we just don't need to. I want to do another one like this one. So we're going to do one more problem, example number 5. You're going to do on page 22. So do this one on page 22. Number 6, 5, and 6, we're not going to do. So I just put an X through. So page 22, we're going to do, actually, I want you to do this problem. This one you should be able to do. It's got a little bit of a kind of a twist to it, but you should be able to start it. Okay? So this is the problem number 5 I want you to do. We're going to do this one instead of 5 and 6 on your notes. Okay, so you need to find all the zeros. So if I'm doing this problem, where should I start? So yeah, so the 0, right? They already gave me a 0. Absolutely. -5. -5 is a 0. For sure. That's already an answer. They're already giving you an answer. So -5 goes here. Now it's my job to find the other 2 because I got to have 3 total. So synthetic division. First guy always comes down. First guy doesn't need to add or subtract. You just come straight down. Then you multiply. -10. -20. -50. I should get a remainder of 0 because it said it was a factor. It said it was a 0. So I did it right. Give them back their x's and x squareds and all that good stuff. So let's start with +10, just becomes +10, doesn't have an x. +4 is going to get an x. +2 is going to get an x squared. Okay, so how do I get my, I have one answer already, right? I got one answer. Let me write that up here. -5. -5 is one of my answers. How do I get the other 2? Set it equal to 0. Yep. Trinomial. 1, 2, 3 steps. 3 terms. Set it equal to 0. Step 1, set it equal to 0. Done. In standard form. Done. GCF. Is there a GCF? There actually is a GCF. Yeah, 2, right? So I get x squared plus 2x plus 5 equals 0. Okay, ABC. Since A is 1 and C is 5, multiply them, you get 5. B is 2. What are the two numbers that multiply to be 5 but add to be 2? Well, there's only two numbers that multiply to be 5, right? 5 and 1. When I add those two guys, that doesn't make 2. Or -5 and -1. Still doesn't make 2, right? So what did we do last chapter when we ran into a situation like that? We had to use quadratic formula, yeah. It's not like we haven't done it before. I know it's a little bit of a pain, but it's not like we haven't done it before. So quadratic formula is -1 parentheses plus or minus the square root parentheses squared 4 times parentheses parentheses over 2 times parentheses. A is 1 here and here. B is 2. C is 3 or 5. What is -1 times 2? -2. That goes in front. Plus or minus. 2 squared is 4. What's 4 times 1 times 5? 20. And then 2 times 1 on the bottom is just 2. So you get -2 plus or minus 4. What is 4 minus 20? -16. There you go, right? We've seen that before. It's not anything we haven't seen before, right? What is the square root of -16? 4i. You've had it. You had it on the last test. You had a question just like that on the last test. And this class did very well in the last test. Yeah, I think your average was almost an A. So you guys can do it. We haven't done it in a while. On the inside, you mean? No, since it's positive, it's 4. It's 2 times itself, so +4. And then minus, so yeah. Okay. Give them each divided by 2. So we get -2 divided by 2 plus or minus 4i divided by 2. Just like you did last chapter. Divide if you can, or reduce if you can. How many answers did that give me? 2 answers. Yeah, it actually gave me 2 answers. -1 plus 2i and -1 minus 2i. Right? So it's actually 2 answers. So there's my 2 answers. And then my third, -5. Okay. If you haven't already, tape those in your notes. And we're done. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to do practice on this, synthetic division. Wednesday, we're going to review for the quiz, so you'll be ready for the quiz on Thursday. Okay, and then Friday, we have a notebook check. So if you're missing anything in your notebook, make sure you do that before Thursday, really. I'm not going to check until Friday, but